So I want to talk a little bit in general about Catalina as we start. It's 22 miles long. It's 8 miles wide. Its highest altitude is 2,100 feet. It's 22 miles away from the mainland, and it's 32 miles away from Marina del Rey. It has a population, year-round population of about 4,000 people, and 90% of that is in Avalon. It was discovered in 1542 by Juan Cabrillo, who was the guy that spent a lot of time here in Santa Barbara. He was integral in that, in the Ventura area. The one thing that is very unique about, well, a thing that is very unique about Catalina is it's always been separate from the mainland. It's never been part of the mainland. So there are, for example, 60 different species of animals over there that we don't have on the mainland. The one that we hear about the most is the island fox. And another interesting part of Catalina's was taken over in 1919 by Philip Wrigley. Wrigley's Chewing Gum, also long-term boater, owned a baseball team in Chicago. Before that, it was owned by, for example, Banning, the Banning family, the three Banning boys. Banning, the original Phineas Banning, created Wilmington, California. Came here right after we became a state in 1848 or 49 from Wilmington, Delaware, and that's how it got its name. In 1975, the Wrigley family turned a good percentage of the island over to the Conservancy. I think they control about 90% of the island now. And the Island Conservancy has three purposes. One is education. They work with young people and get them educated. The other is conservation. They've had some fascinating experiences on conservation. For example, the bald eagle was not able to hatch eggs because of DDT. And they actually, some people, in fact, Charles Hathaway, the creator of the California Yacht Club, was one of these people, paid for a helicopter to come down and pull the eggs out of the basket right after they were hatched. They took them up to UC Davis and they nurtured them until they hatched. And then they went down and they put the babies back in the nest with another helicopter, and to preserve the bald eagle. And the island fox just recently was in trouble, and there was some I don't know exactly what it is, but they had to catch all the island fox and inoculate them against whatever was getting. For example, on Santa Cruz Island, which is held by Conservancy also, you are not allowed to take your dog on board the island. There's a $1,000 fine, and that is to prevent the local species from those problems. So I guess another thing that is just, I think we all need to feel real good about is it's just a tremendous resource for the boater. And I mean, I think we all remember the first time we went to Catalina. I have a daughter that is turned 40 on Halloween, and she was at Catalina when she was 30 days old, and her daughter was at Catalina when she was 30 days old. She lives in Olympia, Washington, and whenever summer comes, she finds a way to go to Catalina, so because she's going to have her daughter experience Catalina just like she did. And grew up doing a lot of boating. And Catalina was just a huge part of it. I want to talk a little bit about the pre-planning on going to Catalina. Number one, you check the weather. Now, it's a lot more critical to watch the weather in the winter than the summer, but it's good to do it all the time. The handouts I gave you, one of them is a weather report that we printed out a couple of weeks ago. And the second page, on the back of the second page, is a couple, we call it resources, and it's the websites of weather, the websites of some video webcams that are both in Isthmus and Avalon, and the emergency VHF number. Part of our doing this originally was to encourage people to come to our rendezvous, and these are channels that we're going to be monitoring, and anyone is welcome to our rendezvous. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. Checking the weather is really critical, and much more critical in the winter. And I think this last year, 2 people were killed over there. And one of the cardinal rules about weather is, I call it getting the hell out when you need to. All of California, there's only 3 natural harbors in all of California. I mean, you read 2 years before the mast. It's a story about Richard Henry Dana, who came to California 10 years before statehood, something like 1840. And there were the only natural. He said there were only 2, but the third one is Cat Harbor. Del Rey Yacht Club knows it. I mean, it's on the backside of the island. That's an all-weather anchorage. Boats get into trouble by water conditions, not wind, and wind creates water conditions. So the key is to find a lee shore. Put some land between you and the wind. So in the weakness of the 2 major harbors at Catalina, which is Isthmus, and Avalon you're completely exposed in northeast winds. So in that case, you need to get the heck out. And if you're at 2 harbors, the best way to get out is go around to Cat Harbor on a slow sailboat. It's an hour and a quarter, and you'll be completely protected. At Avalon, you go around to the Palisades, on the back side of the Palisades. But you put a piece of land between you and the wind is the protection. And so cruising in the wintertime, that's important. And frankly, the wintertime, in my opinion, is kind of one of the nicest times to be there. Another thing that is unique now, that just the last couple of years, is you can make reservations for moorings over there. And in the past you didn't. It's a minimum of 3 days in a row, and you have to call, I think it's after, it's 10 o'clock Thursday. And one of the things in our handouts is the sample form to reserve a mooring, and also how you do it. And you get it online on the Catalina Island website.
And that's not Avalon, though. That's all the other anchorages except Avalon.
Yeah. 2 Harbors Company manages all the anchorage except Avalon, and there is not a reservation system in Avalon. Okay, I think we talked. I talked a little bit about how safe it is to get there, and I've been in the boat business since 1969, when I was 21 years old, selling Hobie cats here. And I've seen over the years how timid some people can be going to Catalina, thinking it's just I've seen people just be terrified of freighters. Everyone drove down here in an automobile that weighed 3,000 pounds, and probably you went 60 or 70 miles an hour. And you go to Catalina on a boat that weighs 3 or 4 times more than that, and you're going 1/10 as fast. It's plenty safe. My daughter got into offshore sailing once and raced to Hawaii 3 times and brought a boat back from Hawaii 4 times in 4 years. So she did 7 Trans-Pacifics in 4 years. I never worried about her. In fact, I always felt and it's true, she was safer out there than she is here. You have lots of protection. So part of this whole process of going to Catalina is to hone your skills and become a better seaman and develop good natural habits. And it's very important that you push yourself a little bit, and you get out there and you do some things that you're uncomfortable with, but you don't do crazy stuff, and you know your advice. Another kind of cardinal rule that I have is ask for help and bring a friend. We all learn, those of us that grew up in boating, other people taught us, and we learn lots of life lessons out there, and it's a wonderful way to get to know people and to hone your skill and develop safe habits. And Catalina is a great resource to do it. A lot of times with new customers, we send an experienced person over to Catalina with them. They get used to getting on and off the mooring and where to anchor, and maybe a basic course in how to anchor. And then that person gets on the ferry and comes back home and leaves them there, and they develop their own confidence. They come back alone, and they're God's gift to the water the next time they go, and they have the confidence. Another key is to ask for help. I have a gutsy little wife, whose birthday is today actually, who used to go to Catalina with a puppy dog by herself. Her and the puppy dog, we had a little 30-foot single screw diesel that she would take over there. And when she was going in, she would always call the harbor patrol and just in a nice tone of voice just say she's by herself and she's a little unconfident of how to get on this mooring alone. Is there a chance a patrol person could hang around? And they were always there. Another thing that happened when she was out there once is the hatch fell on her head, and she she had blood coming out of her head and blood coming out of her hand, and the Baywatch were just wonderful, and we're trying to figure out how to deal with this, and there isn't a lot of medicine over there. The only place to get stitches, for example, is in Avalon, which is a long truck and the Baywatch guy was kind of looking at this little sporty gal and said, well, she's really looking okay. So she ended up bringing the boat back alone. But she would call me every half hour and give me a latitude and longitude and distance to Marina del Rey and line of direction, and 4 staples and 10 stitches, and 3 weeks later she was back enjoying Catalina again with more confidence than ever. She had a problem, but the Baywatch was there. Baywatch was there, and they were helpful. And all of us are in the boat business, all of us, because we love the lifestyle. And talking to new people and getting more people involved in boating is what we're all about, including these 2 people in blue shirts over here. So we're all here to support and encourage, and it's our livelihood too. It's how we stay in business, is getting more people to do this. Okay, I want to talk about getting there now. I think any good boater plans their departure by when they want to arrive, and I believe any experienced person has a cardinal rule that you arrive during the daytime. You don't. I don't remember ever going into a strange harbor at night. So for the first time, a strange harbor, I guess, makes it the first time. So you certainly plan your departure in order to arrive during daylight hours. Nowadays, it's light till 7:30 or 8. I'd certainly plan to be there by 6:30. On our rendezvous, that is going to be the 3rd weekend in July, we're going to have a flotilla go over together for those that want some. And we're leaving the south end of the Marina del Breakwater at 9 o'clock. And we'll have a dinghy in 2 harbors. We'll be monitoring Channel 9, the same channel that the Harbor Patrol monitors if someone needs some help getting on a mooring. And we're going to be doing our best to have people feel comfortable. The other thing I want to talk about, most of us have electronics that are a lot smarter than us. I know my electronics is a lot smarter than us. And using your boat and stuff is like riding a bike. You do it you learn by doing. And it's hard to learn strictly out of a book. So getting in the habit, for example, of using your GPS and putting the right waypoints in, and how to put in waypoints, is a big part of it. And our rendezvous is going to be in Isthmus. Isthmus is a compass course of somewhere around 168. You normally do a dog leg around Palos Verdes to do it. There's a turning buoy there, but if you go too close to Palos Verdes, there's some kelp and there's some fish nets and there's some problems in there that you want to avoid. So I would encourage someone to put a waypoint somewhere off of PV, plenty safe away from PV if they have a problem, and then go into the Isthmus. The other thing to be aware of at Isthmus is a low point inland and there's a lot more mountains on both sides of the Isthmus. So if you're looking at the island, it V's down, and you go for the V in the mountain to go to the Isthmus. Boating is about getting all the information you can, not relying, in my opinion, on any one thing. Like for example, sailing a boat in heavy air, you're looking at the wind conditions, you're looking at the water, you're looking at boat speed, you're using all the senses you can. So seeing visually where you're going is as important as seeing it on the radar or seeing it on the GPS. Us sailors always sail when we can. We're not afraid to shorten sail. One of my mottos is, I don't beat my wife and I don't beat my boat. And pushing a boat too hard, especially a sailboat that's really on its ear, all you're doing is the force that should be driving the boat forward is pushing the boat in the water and taking life out of your sails, and you're not going faster. So don't be afraid to shorten sail. Many people are scared to death of freighters. That's another rule. It's called tonnage. Don't pick a fight with something a lot bigger than you. But avoiding a freighter is so simple to do, and nowadays we have electronics that keeps us to do it. But the simplest way to do it is to take a bearing on that freighter. You know, on one point on the bow of the freighter, for example, let's say that's 190 degrees. Put it out of your mind for 5-10 minutes and do another bearing. And if the bearing stays the same, you're going to hit it. You know, if the bearing is going forward, it's going to pass in front of you. It's going back, it's going to pass behind. Don't be so concerned that you take a wide turn around it. You know, lower your speed. Don't be nervous, just watch it. Sometimes if you're just sitting, all of us have Dodgers and stuff, and we're sitting in the same place and we see a line on the, maybe a little dark mark on the old isinglass, and you just kind of realize it's there, and you look, and a few minutes later, if it stays there again, you're on a collision course. But sailboaters always leave their sails up when they power. You know, the sail gives you additional power, it gives you stability, gives you more efficiency, and also is redundancy if anything happens. So always power with your sails up. When you're 10 minutes out, you typically call the harbor master and you advise them that you're coming in, and you let them know what you're doing. In my case, my boat is called Friendship. It's a 45-foot motor yacht, and they're on Channel 9. You'd call them up and say, you know, Isthmus Harbor Master, this is Friendship. They come back, and just a simple statement: I'm a 45-foot motor yacht. I'm coming over for the rendezvous, so I'd like to be as close as possible to the two harbors. Do you have a mooring for you? And they'll come back. In the case of rendezvous, they really want to encourage people to go over there. I'm sure you have the same experience. They do a good job of saving moorings and trying to keep people together. They're very much into promoting their island, so they work well, and they will get you a mooring. We've never had a real problem. We haven't. Maybe 15 years ago we had some problems, but in the last 10 years we've had no problems in moorings. Especially, maybe August is the tough time, but especially July and September. And maybe some 3-day weekends, and then some of the big events they have. But generally, the accessibility to moorings is getting a whole lot better. They typically have a little patrol boat out there that greets you. You give them some basic information. You pay them if you want. They'll give you an assignment, a mooring assignment. If you want to pay afterwards, you can go to the harbor masters and pay with a credit card. They try very hard to make it convenient. Another thing I want to just mention is I really believe that if you're a sailboater, the right time to take down your sails. Again, you're going over there to develop good habits. The last thing you want to do is drop a sail in the middle of the channel where it's generally rougher. So you generally wait till you get in and get into the lee of the island where the water is smoother and where there's less wind when you drop your sail. Keep it up till near the end.